Welcome back to the Barter Black Podcast, where we shine a light on powerful voice in entrepreneurship, community, and culture. Today, I'm sitting down with a woman who knows exactly what it means to rewrite your story on your own terms. She's a former FBI professional turned powerhouse entrepreneur, executive coach, speaker, and CEO of the Airment Group. She's helped high achievers break free from careers that no longer serve them and step boldly into their purpose. She's also the author of The Six Figure, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Transitioning Out of Your 9 to 5 Without Regret, a book that's been changing the way professionals think about success, security, and freedom. Family, I'm excited to welcome Danielle The Coach to the show. Danielle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right today? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm doing wonderful.
All right, so we're going to
No
go ahead and
complaint.
jump in. All right, great. So you spent over a decade working for the FBI in various roles before pivoting into coaching and entrepreneurship. What was that transition like, and what challenges did you face, and how did that experience shape the coach and leader you are today?
Oh, that's loaded. I'm gonna come back and ask you to break it down for me because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So first things first, what was the transition like?
Okay.
The transition was it was scary. But I was at a place in my life and career where I had done my due diligence to properly plan and get clear on what my life's purpose was, but also to position myself to be able to pivot out of what was secure, seemingly so, and familiar into a realm where there was unlimited potential and possibility. The second part to that question was
What challenges did you face, and how did that
oh,
experience shape the coach and leader you are today?
got it. So the challenges that I faced, um, the biggest one was making a hard decision that and taking a risk that I hadn't seen too many people ever in life take. So doing something that was unprecedented, doing something that was unpopular, doing something that in my sphere of influence basically was just unheard of, right? So getting over my own reservations as someone who is calculated by nature, I have a degree in math, right? So if that's any indicator of how I'm wired and how I see life in the world, right? It's just like I had to get over me, and then it's outside opinions from those whose opinions I solicited and valued, right? But then it's just like, okay, well, what is the answer? Like, I know I'm capable. I know I'm brilliant, but what might success look like on the other side of this? Um, how successful might I be if I worked as hard for myself as I do for the FBI, who was my employer at that time? Um, Overcoming the fear of failing was a challenge, and that's something that I found kept me in a place that was no longer serving me for longer than my soul desired because I wasn't confident on the how. So that was another challenge. Um, and then I would say, lastly, a challenge that I faced was just getting clarity around what my purpose was. I didn't feel confident enough to just pivot into just any old thing after feeling like, okay, I've tried the new job thing, and here I am, less than 30 days into a new position, and I'm miserable. Like, this ain't it, right? So I stayed there for another year and a half until I could figure out my next move. But in that year and a half, I went on my own purpose journey. And while I say that I feel like my purpose was staring me in the face the whole time, it took time for me to get still enough for me to notice what was happening in me and around me and how people were interacting with me, for me to get the clarity that I needed, that bred the confidence that allowed me to walk away from a six-figure good government job, in air quotes, right? into the never um, disappointing world of full-time entrepreneurship, right? It's a roller coaster. But I'm still here. And so what did I learn from it? Was that the last part?
Um, how did that experience shape the coach and leader you are today?
Oh, listen. So the fact that I decided to niche down into serving successful professionals who are wanting to make a purpose driven pivot that honors who they are, the legacy that they've built, and what they're called to do next. This is not something that I am teaching or coaching people through based on theory or something that I learned in my coaching certification. I got the T-shirt, I have the lanyard, I have the sweat towel, I got the poster. You understand? My face is on the poster. In my sphere, I started the movement. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like my lived experience has afforded me the empathy required to help usher someone through a similar breakthrough that I ushered myself through years ago.
Perfect. You said you got the t-shirt, the lanyard. All right. You often emphasize combining popular culture, corporate acumen, and actionable strategies in your coaching. Can you tell us about a time when bringing in cultural or creative thinking made a big difference for one of your clients?
Let's see. Um, Cultural or creative thinking. Yeah. So I had a client who was at her wits' end um, in her career. She was director level, in her organization, making good money, but in a very toxic work environment, right? Um, when she came to me, she expressed that she wasn't necessarily wanting to quit the 9 to 5 world. She liked the type of work that she did. However, she had to get the hell out of Dodge and soon for her sanity, right? And so, one of the things that I offered her as something to consider was tapping into her existing set of like resources. A lot of times when we're in spaces and in seasons of our lives when we're so overwhelmed and frustrated, we can't see the forest for the trees, right? And so I'm like, hey, listen, who do you know, right? Who is in your network now, right? Mind you, she had been applying for jobs ad nauseum for months, no traction, right? She would either make the cert list, wouldn't get an interview, or maybe get an interview and not hear anything back, right? It was just like brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. And so for me, I'm just like, listen, you're overthinking it. You're overthinking it. And even though you're exhausted, you have not exhausted all of the possibilities, right? And there's a cultural reference right there. If anybody caught it, if anybody's watching live and they caught it, and you dropped the reference that came from, I'll give you a complimentary laser coaching session. Why you got to drop it while we're live, though? You got to drop it while we're live, right? She had not exhausted the possibilities, and so I told her to, really get resourceful. Be resourceful about what opportunities are available to you, and instead of trying to beat down and knock down doors that aren't presently open, like you're not new to what you do. You got decades of experience, right? And so she took that and got creative and made a list of people that she used to work with or that she knew in her industry, and just send a DM on LinkedIn like, hey, I'm looking for something new. If you know anything, let me know. Within 90 days of our work together, she ended up landing a new job, had an income increase of salary increase of, I think, about 35%. Mind you, she was already director level, making good money, like up north, right? And so just like life just turned right side up for her as a matter of being open and willing to think outside the box and do something a little bit different that might have been uncomfortable, right? But you don't have to always follow the status quo, right? That's sometimes it really is who you know. And so that's one example that was top of mind amongst many, I'm sure.
All right. So, as someone who works with high achieving professionals who feel stuck despite success, what are some common mindset obstacles you see, and how do you help clients overcome them?
A big one is individuals boxing themselves in. So it's one thing for us to say, to tell someone else, don't put me in a box. But it hits different when we are the ones putting ourselves in the proverbial box, right? That's a big one. And it's common amongst the professionals, the seasoned professionals that I support, because by the time they get to the point in their career where they are having what I call a mid-career crisis, and I become relevant in their sphere, right? Whatever I put out content wise, they pick up what I'm putting down because they're going through. They have over a decade of experience. They have upwards of 2 decades, if not more, of professional experience. They have the expertise, they have the security, they have the know-how, all of these things. And they've told themselves that whatever I do next, it has to be related to this. Like, I want to do something different, but there has to be some kind of like tether. There has to be, there's all of these prerequisites to doing something different. And before you know it, they've boxed themselves in. Um, and instead of being able to explore the possibilities, right, they've limited their possibilities. So that's one thing mindset wise. Another thing is it's a fear of failure. Like, successful people like to win, and to have worked so long and so hard and created a lane and a legacy of your own, to say that, this is not doing it for me anymore. I think I want to do something a little bit different. First, you feel crazy when you say it initially, because you're just like, why would I walk away from this, right? And then, and if you're bold enough to share it with somebody, whether they're in your inner circle or not, most people are going to say, you be crazy to walk away from the money, from the title, from the status, from the career, from the organization, from the FBI, whatever their thing is, whatever the pedestal that they have you on, right? They'll tell you that you're crazy for wanting to do something different. And so those, like, that feedback, the internal and the external dialogues, is enough to have you second guessing yourself. But then there's the fear of failure for those who are uber successful already, right? It's just like, well, what if I do this thing, whatever this thing might be, and what if I fail? Guess what? You'll figure it out, right? And most times you won't. It's just that lack of self-trust. Um, One more thing that I would say, mindset wise, is um, their relationship with money. Most of the professionals that are in a space where they align with the work that I do, they're looking for me. Like, again, they're picking up what I'm putting down. They're making good money, right? They're making 6+ figures in income. And so they've established a lifestyle that they love, or at least that they like, right? And they, depending on their lived experience, they may have dependents. They may be in a space where now they're caregiving. It might not be dependents in child form. It could be, parents or loved ones, what have you, right? And so there is this dependency, that there may be a dependency of others on their income, or There could be this identity that they have that is shaped by their income and their financial status. And so that can play um, games with one's mind when you're even considering taking the leap.
Is a technique that you use to help them overcome one of those three challenges that you mentioned?
So I have a framework that I offer my clients, um, and it's coming from the space where the belief that I have in not just self care, but radical self care. And so I have taken the word care and created an acronym around it. And to answer your question, the C in care stands for courage. And what I know from lived experience, because remember, I got the T-shirt, the lanyard, the socks, the poster, all of the things. The answers, the freedom, the clarity, and the confidence that they're lacking is on the other side of exercised courage. It's not enough to just think about being courage, but like flexing your courage muscle, doing something different to get different results, right? And one of the things that I stress is that anything is possible with a plan. It's all a matter of how much risk that you're willing to explore, right? What is your nexus to risk, right? And even if it's a little bit, what does exercising a little bit of risk look like for you, right? What could you do differently, or something new that you can do that bends you toward the reality that you desire and away from the reality that is no longer serving you.
All right. So, diversity, equity, and inclusion, if that isn't a hot topic these past few months, this past year, period, and leadership development seem to be big parts of your practice. How do you integrate DEI into helping somebody quit their 9 to 5 without regret, particularly in environments that might not be supportive or inclusive?
It's all about having a plan and knowing who you are, right? And knowing your intrinsic value, right? That sets the foundation for everything else that is external facing or people facing that they might value. And so, as I guess fate and purpose would have it, I would say that 100% of my clients are minorities, if you will, or from traditionally underrepresented groups in the spaces that we're talking about. And so with them, it's a matter of me holding the space for them to help them understand, to remind them of who they are, to help build them back up because they've been beat down and they're burnt out. And so, having been a DEI practitioner by trade, having been a DEI champion, having been a DEI advocate, having helped to advance the diversity and inclusion mission of the FBI back when I was there in that space as my day job, but then also as someone who is from also a traditionally underrepresented group and a space that is predominantly white and male and senior in age, right? I know that life too. And so for me, I'm able to in this instance as well, support my clients from a space of lived empathy, and giving them the space to grieve the career and the life that they've known as they are courageous enough to be daring and bold and audacious in creating a life and a career of their wildest dreams. Like it's definitely a process, and it's not a process that can or should be rushed. And I know sometimes people, they wait until the 25th hour to reach out and ask for help, and they feel like circumstances are dire and something's got to change yesterday. And it's just like, well, the process starts now, right? With my help, right? We'll do what we can with what we have, but there is a method to like the success, and in acknowledging like the hurt, acknowledging the workplace trauma, acknowledging the burnout, acknowledging your tears where you haven't had a safe space until now to shed them and not feel judged, right? And then you walk away from this conversation feeling more empowered than you have in months or years. Like it's a process, but I guarantee you this, and I tell my clients and I'll tell anybody who asks me or I have the pleasure of speaking with, I say people have three options when a client makes the conscious decision to enlist my support and my accountability. People in their world have three options. They can get on board, they can get left behind, or if you dare get in their way, you can get bulldozed, because we're going places. Like in who they were at the point of reaching out, having a complimentary strategy session, and actually saying yes and being courageous enough to ask for help is not who they're going to be if they lock in and commit to this process by the time our engagement is up. It's just not humanly possible. It's not possible.
It's crazy you said grieve. A lot of people think grieving and grief is only associated with death. But it doesn't have to be physically. It can be a relationship, a friendship, a job, things that you're used to. It's crazy because in one of my class things I do is closet
Mhm.
therapy. I'm a personal stylist, so that's one of the things that I touch on is grieving your clothes. Like, clothes hold energy. You have to get rid of stuff in order to make room for the new stuff. So
Mhm.
everything is therapy.
You get me.
Any changes is therapy. All right, so let's talk about the six-figure quitter, the entrepreneur's guide to transitioning out of your 9 to 5 without regret, has resonated with many who are successful but unfulfilled. What inspired you to write this book, and why did you feel now was the right time to share this with a wider audience?
So the six-figure quitter is what I needed but didn't have when I was having my own personal mid-career crisis. I dug my way out of my 9 to 5. In the book, I talk about, I share that I quit not once but twice. And so in the book, I describe each of those instances as leap one and leap two. Leap one showed me what was possible before getting recruited back. I was recruited back before I had a chance to officially offboard, right? But I had given my notice. I was done. Okay. It was just it was the countdown was on. But my purpose in the organization had not been fulfilled. And because I took a courageous action by faith, miracles are waiting for me on the other side. That to this day, people still talk about, and they're in awe of just how everything after me giving my notice transpired, right? And then when I got to leap two really showed me what I was made of. It really showed me what I was made of. And then when I fast forward a couple years, on the other side of leap two, I've always felt that there was, since about 2018, I felt that there was a book in me. Had no idea what it was going to be about, but I knew I was supposed to write a book. And that particular purpose assignment was one of the things that weighed on me for years. And so as I kind of found my footing as a full-time entrepreneur, and worked to niche down who I was going to serve as a life coach, because I started off super broad, I want to help everybody. And then over time, I kind of like niche down. I saw who was coming to me and what they had in common. And I'm like, you know what? I think that's my lane. And I am going to just create a whole world around what it is that I know, because most people can't. They can support you, but they can't support you from a place of lived experience like I can. And that's one of my differentiators in this space and doing this work with this particular niche. Um, and so when I finally got my wits about me, I said, well, if I was able to do this not once but twice, and these are two six-figure jobs, six-figure careers, there's got to be a method to my success and being able to do it and land on both feet, right? And live to tell about it. And so I said, well, let me retrace my steps. Like, what were the patterns between both experiences that I can package up in a way that is digestible and implementable by others who are wearing a similar shoe, making good money, right? It's secure, you got the lifestyle, you've been financially savvy, all of the things. And on paper, it doesn't even make sense for you to be thinking about doing something else. But internally, you feel like you're withering away because you're unfulfilled. And you know that something is tugging at you and saying that there's got to be more to life than this job and the money that I'm making. And so my book is written for those to give you the permission to explore. I'm never going to tell anybody to quit their job. One, because I'm not going to pay your bills. Let's start there, right? It is a conscious decision that you must make. But what I know is that the people that I wrote the book for don't have to be persuaded to leave their job. They think about that thing every day and every night, especially Sunday through Friday. Okay? They live for the weekends. They can't even enjoy Sundays because Sunday means tomorrow is Monday and I got to go back to that place. I got to have these conversations. I got to deal with these people. They're miserable out of their minds. And so what my book is, it's a pattern interrupt, but it's also the permission to explore possibility.
Perfect. So in the book, you talk about golden handcuffs. What are some signs that someone is now in golden handcuffs, even if on paper everything looks great? I think you touched on it when you answered the last question. And how does one begin to move beyond them without burning bridges or making impulsive decisions?
I'll start with the end. So how do you move beyond it without burning bridges or making impulsive decisions? One, you got to call a thing a thing. Like that is when we add. So I'm a believer, right? And so one thing I believe is when you call a thing, that's when you are in position to take dominion over it, right? If you don't know that you are handcuffed, you don't know that you are handcuffed. If you don't recognize them as golden handcuffs in air quotes, you don't even know that they're there. But when you recognize that it is the salary, it is the title, it is the prestige of the organization that you're working for that is keeping you showing up day in, day out, month in, month out, year in, year out, but miserable and feeling stagnant. When you're able to, and when you're willing to call a thing, that's when you now become accountable and able to make different decisions to get you different results. And there's grace, right? Because there's seasons, well, I should say a season, it could be short or long or extended, where you don't even realize that you're going through these motions. You're just going through these motions. You're so smart, you're so brilliant, you're so successful. You're the Olivia Pope, male or female, of your space, of your industry, of your division, of your organization, you name it, right? These are the people that I'm here to serve, right? Because they are me and I am them. And so it's like you do these things seemingly with ease, but you feel like something's missing. Like it's no longer like enough. You make the money, you got the title, you're next in line for a promotion, you can have it however you want it, right? But just to the point now, it's just like, well, I don't even know if I want what's next. I think I want a different flavor or something, right? And so when you give yourself the permission to start exploring that, then you can position yourself to be able to create the space, safe space for you to explore, which I recommend working with a coach, because most people, and they mean well, but the people that are closest to you, most of them would never ever consider leaving a six-figure career where they have all the bells and whistles. And so most people, out of their limited perspective, out of their differing life purpose, out of their love for you, they might actually try to talk you out of it. And it also might be for selfish reasons, because it may be benefiting from that six-figure career, that six-figure salary, right? Different strokes for different folks. But when you give yourself the space to just think and explore what's possible, then you can create a corporate exit strategy that caters to not just what you want, but also your lifestyle. And you get to do this thing, you get to pivot out of what's familiar your way and on your terms. And it doesn't have to be haphazard, but it also doesn't have to be a public service announcement until you're ready. And so it's just a matter of, if you're already respected in your space, giving yourself the confidence, the information, the data to breed your own confidence, to be able to say, hey, this is what this is what I'm getting ready to do. This is what I want. This is the end game. I don't even know the how with a capital H, or the how with a lowercase h, right? I can see like the first three steps, but I know the end game. And this is how I want to go out. And so it may be, okay, now that I have a plan, this place has 6 months. I'm going to come in, do my job. You might even have more pep in your step, because now you're working towards something. It doesn't feel like you'll be doing this for 20 more years unfulfilled, right? And when you're ready to have those conversations with the people that you need to have them with, internally and externally, you can also approach it strategically and have a plan for that too. And it's something I talk about in the book. And having a plan, and the chapter after having a plan is put people on notice. And why that's important is you don't have to tell everybody, but from my experience, and just like the client that I shared earlier in the example that I gave, how she put people on notice, and that landed her with ease a new job with a higher salary and back to living her best life, because she put people on notice strategically. And so if you put people, when you're ready to put people on notice, you control the narrative instead of giving people leverage to say what they want to say about what you got going next. When I was planning to leave for Leap One, I told people, I said, I'm going back to school to get a PhD in psychology. Did I mean it? Yeah. Had I been accepted to any programs? No. Had I applied to any programs? No. But that was what my plan was. I just had to get out of that job because I could not even function after work. What did I end up doing next? I got recruited back, and I was working 5 floors up, doing a whole different line of work, right? Did I ever get the PhD? No. But opportunity presented itself, and I get to choose. But when I was leaving that job, this was my narrative. I'm going back to school, right? The second time I left, I knew that I was done. I knew that I was going to get my certification, my coaching certification. I didn't want to just pivot into coaching in an unregulated industry, wake up one day and say, I'm Danielle the Coach, which I could have, because who's going to check me, right? You can do that in that space. But for me, it mattered, and it was important for me to pivot into that space with credibility. And so I invested in this training and certification so that I could have some letters behind my name, right? And be taken a little bit more serious than maybe the average coach at that time. And so people would ask, well, yeah, I'm coach. I'm going to start my own coaching practice. That's what I'm going to go do, right? But also with controlling the narrative, it's also knowing what you want. Being positioned to play whatever game that you're willing to play, right? You can go out with a bang if you want to. You get to choose. But the point is that you get to choose.
Look, you answered my next question, so we're going to skip on down. Many people worry about financial risk or losing security when leaving a well paying job. How does your book address managing that risk, both practically and emotionally? What mindset shifts are essential?
One of the things I talk about in the book is before you leap, especially if you're making good money, six figures, or whatever good money looks like to you, right? But most of my clients are already making six figures, is getting in tune and clear about your relationship with money. I think that's it's more important than one may ever even imagine. And we talked about grief earlier, right? And for those whose identity is consciously or even subconsciously wrapped up in who you are, and the money that you make, it can be humbling, and it can also cause you to experience like analysis paralysis when you're considering walking away from what has once been comfortable, maybe comfortable for some time now, but exploring your relationship with money before it changes, I think is imperative. But then also something that I talk about is being crystal clear on what your financial runway is. Just because you're making a lot of money doesn't mean that you got a lot of money sitting in the bank or you have a lot of money invested that you can tap into. Everybody's lived experience is different, right? And so one of the big things to be clear about is just how far what I have access to will hold me if another dime doesn't come in for some time. And I'll caveat this and say that my book is intended for those who are looking to pivot out of six-figure corporate careers into full-time entrepreneurship. And I say that because it's different than just trying to find just another job, right? And I also say that I recommend keeping your job until you have proof that your business concept is viable for you. Now you get to do it your way, right? I'm totally honest here and in my book. I didn't have the social proof. I just had the faith, but I also had the financial runway. And again, it can make or break when, how soon, and if pivoting is even possible for you, because you have very likely have financial responsibilities in this season of your life. And so really delving into and having honest conversations about your finances. And my recommendation is to get with a financial advisor. I am not one. I don't have those conversations. I can just tell you what I did, what I didn't do. But getting with a financial professional, a financial strategist, so that it'll give you the confidence to stay or to go, right? And there may be some people who are surprised at how well they've positioned themselves because they have this practice of setting it and forgetting it. But when you have that unbiased financial professional in your business, in your finances, they can paint the most realistic picture for you. I'm just like, you know what? Actually, you set things up pretty well. Like, here's what you are working with, or you know what? Not so much, right? At the end of the day, you get to choose. You got to pay your bills, not us. But just it's worth doing the due diligence and having a conversation at that level beforehand.
A lot of people take that into consideration when they're stepping into entrepreneurship.
Yes, indeed.
So, as the CEO of the Aramint Group, am I saying that right? Aramint?
You said it perfectly. Yes.
Okay. Aramint Group and a coach to aspiring entrepreneurs. What are the key traits or habits you believe separate those who make a successful exit from those who try but struggle or go back?
Financial aptitude, faith, being not being afraid to ask for and invest in the help and support that you need, to maybe help you solve whatever problem in your business or accomplish whatever goal in your business or life that you may have, maybe a little bit faster to help collapse time around that. Um, Being innovative in a rapidly changing marketplace and digital marketplace on top of that, being adaptable, being flexible, being resilient. Like entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. Full-time entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It will show you who you are. It will show you what you're made of. It will show you where there are opportunities for you to grow. It will show you some behaviors and mindsets that are no longer serving you. It'll show you who's in your corner. It'll show you where there are opportunities for you to make some new friends. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and if you wrap your arms around it and embrace it and don't fight it, it can change things, right? But it's, I know personally, and I share this unapologetically. Like, you couldn't have told me that in my first year after I got my coaching certification that, you know, I wasn't going to have, I don't know if I was, my goal then was like a 7-figure business, but I think maybe like a 6-figure business in my first year. You couldn't, I was already making 6 figures working for the FBI. Like, why wouldn't I be making 6 figures in a business of my own, right? You couldn't have told me that that was not going to be my story. And so I don't know if I would say that it, like, entrepreneurship humbled me, but it definitely was a blow to my ego. Man, I'm accomplished. Like, I'm successful. Like, yeah. And while I'm confident in who I am as a professional, you know, I don't think that I've ever been cocky about it, but I know who I am and I know my value and I know what I bring to the table. And so it's just like, well, why wouldn't I be as successful? Aren't I going to have a wait list of people wanting to come and enlist themselves and enroll themselves in my coaching practice? Child, let me tell you something. I did more educating in that first year about coaching than I really wanted to. But again, that's something I wouldn't have known until I was eyeballs deep in it, right? But committed to the process and understanding my market, understanding, you know, who the understanding the vantage point and the perspective of those that I was already organically connected to. And also the fact that nobody in my sphere was talking about coaching when I said I'm quitting the FBI and I'm going to pursue a coaching certification. Nobody. And so for me, it's been an uphill battle of, you know, doing my dance on social media figuratively, not literally, and just being consistent about, you know, coaching, and branding myself as Danielle the Coach. Um, and so that now when people think about coaching, who have been around for some time, they think about me. But my God, if you had told me back in 2019, when I told them people, peace out, that it would have taken as long as it did, the Lord knew that I would have been there a little bit longer. Okay. He knew, which is why he didn't show me that part. But yeah, so that's that.
And it's definitely a learned process.
Yes,
You can
indeed.
say I think we all need that. Entrepreneurship ain't for the faint. We all need that
And
t-shirt. So looking ahead, what do you hope the legacy of the six-figure quitter will be for professionals, especially women of color or people from underrepresented backgrounds who are considering or already in the journey of quitting without regret?
my prayer is that it will be the go-to resource for individuals that are considering taking a similar leap. And my prayer is that it will also be the permission slip that someone has been praying for, that reminds them or that tells them, like, you're not crazy, you're called, right? And if she did it, it's possible for you too. You just have to figure out what it is that you are called to do, what your purpose is, and what it will look like for you to align with that and lead with that and be rooted and grounded in that, because the going will get rough. That's one of the few guarantees that entrepreneurship can grant you, is the going will get rough. And it's just like, I don't care who you talk to, I don't care where they are on the realm of success. There have been seasons where they questioned it all. There have been seasons where they wanted to quit and throw in the towel. There have been seasons where they didn't know how some bills were going to get paid. And there have been seasons that have been overwhelmingly successful, right? It comes with the territory. And so my goal with the book is that I'm able to offer you insight into what's possible, but also what is waiting for you, so that when the going gets tough, not if, but when, you don't feel like you're broken. You feel like an entrepreneur.
There. All right, Danielle. So go ahead and tell the people where we can find you. Where can we grab this great Bible? Because that's what we gonna call it, the Six-Figure Quitter Bible.
I love it. Yeah, so you can get the Six Figure Quitter at the6figurequitter.com.
And where can we follow you at on social? And where can they reach you if they want to go ahead and get their life together?
Yes. So on social, let's see. Instagram, I'm at Danielle the Coach. On Facebook, I'm at Danielle the Coach. On LinkedIn, I'm at Danielle the Coach. If you are interested in learning more about my blueprint that I do share in the book, but maybe like in a free training format, you can go to quitwithoutregret.com. And you can grab that in addition to supplement the broader storyline and blueprint that I share in the actual book. Oh, wait, and I'm on Barter Black. I can't forget about that.
Can't forget about that.
I got two listings on Barter Black. My first listing is for a corporate exit strategy session. It's a 30-minute strategy session, and it's your chance to slow down, zoom out, and get clear about your next step. And my brand new offering on Barter Black, thanks to an inquiry by Dr. Shatia, who at least she was here with us in the comments. Hey, Dr. Shatia, if you're still here. It's influencer marketing. So you can borrow my audience. And it's specifically for mental health practitioners and also those that are in the financial advising space, because those two industries are complementary to the work that I do with my clients. We talked a lot about the money piece tonight, but the mental health piece is also a thing. And it's absolutely common for my clients to have a therapist and a coach. And so what I am offering up on the platform is for mental health practice owners or practitioners, therapists, mental health professionals, and also financial and wealth advisors who want to get more eyes on their company and share the amazingness that they do, to come on my platform in a format similar to this, where I interview them and share them with my audience. And so that's my newest offering on the Barter Black platform.
Look at that. See, this is what happens when you're a Barter Black member. This is community right here, okay? Because we always bouncing ideas off of each other. All right, Danielle, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your story with us today. The Six-Figure Quitter is more than a book. It's a roadmap for anyone who's ready to step out of fear, step out of those golden handcuffs, and step into a life and business they truly love. To our listeners, if Danielle's story lit a fire in you, make sure you grab her book, even if it didn't, grab her book, because it might light a fire in you after you read the book. Connect with her coaching programs and take that first step towards your own rebrand and reinvention. And as always, I'm your host, Daphne Marie, entrepreneur, midlife strategist, and founder of the Chic Glamma and Chic Support Solutions. My mission is to help women, especially in our community, reclaim their confidence, reimagine their possibilities, and build lives and businesses that feel as good as they look. Thank you for tuning in to Black Barter Podcast, where culture, community, and commerce come together. Until next time, keep building, keep bartering, and keep betting on yourself.